Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is Friday, August the 1st. So happy August, everybody. First day of August. Of course, as always, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Um, so hopefully everybody's having themselves a good day here. I'm talking to you, of course. I'm going to do some last minute invites here since I fell a little behind here. Let's see now. Get the word, see if I can get the word out, see if I can see if anybody's interested in dropping in to check it out. Let's see. So, of course, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started here. So while we're waiting, of course, we are waiting, of course. I am going to let's see. I'll go ahead and put some music on real quick here for a moment. Never mind. There we go. All right, so I guess we finally get that part settling in. But anyways, as we wait for more people to come in, so today I finished off watching the June 1939 cartoons, including another color, starting off with Ghost is the Bunk, which is a Popeye cartoon, which Olive is reading ghost stories to Bluto and Popeye, and then Bluto decides to go to a nearby abandoned hotel and lure Olive and Popeye there to try to scare them, and then they turn the tables on Bluto. So also, Fleischer also put out in that month, of course, on their Color Classic series, the Hunky and Spunky cartoon, The Barnyard Brat, in which Spunky acts like a little brat on the farm, basically bullying and teasing some of the other farm animals, till his mother kind of whips him back into shape. Let's see. So another of the another variation of the no, 1,000 times no melodramas. This one from Columbia Pictures, Charles Mintz Productions. Nels Yells. Then we saw a couple of Terry tunes as well with Candy Goose episode, as well as introducing Major Doolittle as well. And of course Squawks. So that's what I was watching. So anyways, we're past the 4-minute mark now, so I guess I'm going to go ahead here. Before I do talk about what's on tap, I'm going to one more time go and see if there's anybody else I can try to catch. I guess not. All right. All right. So, anyways, we're at the 5-minute mark now, so might as well talk about what's on tap for tonight. So tonight I'm going to go over a couple articles, one from ETV Tunes and one from Bounding into Comics. So first off, of course, so initially parents were not happy about the Smurfs. I'm going to find out why that was, according to at least the MeTV Tunes article that I picked up on here. And then now they're also adapting the 1994 Spider-Man comic, or Spider-Man series, the 1994 Spider-Man animated series into a comic. We're going to check that out, check out a news article on that. They're talking about how they're doing a mini series. They're not going to quite explain how. They're not going to go into how how Peter was able to find Mary Jane. They may explore that. If you guys remember, towards the end of the series, during a battle with the Green Goblin, Mary Jane was basically swallowed into kind of a limbo dimension, basically because of the portal hole that the Green Goblin was using. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna even though we won't find out exactly how that was resolved and all that yet, but they have indicated apparently that that they might, depending upon how well the miniseries does. So those two articles, plus we got quite a bit of things to talk about. The wrestling wrap up. Of course, there was a special edition of Collision last night from AEW, as well as, of course, the usual episodes of TNA and Ring of Honor. Of course, WWE has a big weekend. This weekend is, of course, you got the Go Home SmackDown before this Saturday and Sunday SummerSlam. SummerSlam is a 2-night event this year. So, and I guess, give me a sec, folks. I guess I am gonna have to start doing something about the just give me a sec here. So I'm going to put some music on. I'll be right back. Just a little longer. Hold on, one more. That doesn't really work. Alright, well, anyways, alright. Alright, sorry about that. I guess I'm gonna have to just sit over, like, to this side more, I guess. Trying to figure out exactly how to deal with that glare right there, but you know, I guess so. What I realized is it's because of the fact of how the light is reflecting from the window above me. It's um that's why it's kind of being a little bit of a team. Oh, anyways, we've spent enough time on all this. Friendly reminder, of course, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. Guess it doesn't affect it as much if when I do the split screen here. It's only like from my from my camera here that it's really effective. So, anyways, let's get into the article here. All right, so the first article we're doing tonight is this one regarding the Smurfs. Parents originally complained about the Smurfs. Let's see, everybody's gone Smurfing USA. Article published today by MeTV Toon staff. So there, it looks like you see you got Smurfette there, and kind of hard to tell. Well, the one probably sleeping there is probably lazy. Outside of those two, the others are a little bit harder to tell, I think. Anyways, so let's go ahead and get started here. So, say what you want about the Smurfs, but we will passionately defend those cute little blue guys to the very end. They are friendly, peaceful, gentle, and downright smurfy. But according to their creator, Peyo, parents weren't always on board with the Smurfs. The little blue gnomes were originally created to be one-off side characters in Peyo's original comic series, Johann and Pee-wee. But they quickly became fan favorites. The Smurfs eclipsed Peyo's original comic stars, and began their empire with comics, movies, television, toys, and even amusement park rides. Since their creation in 1958, the Smurfs have been translated into over 55 languages, solidifying them as a global phenomenon. A global phenomenon. Let's see. The Smurfs were and are beloved by fans and the world, especially children. Peyo believed the children could really see themselves in the Smurfs, saying, quote, children can find personality traits of themselves or their classmates in each Smurf. Well, of course, because each Smurf kind of did have their own personality, right? Smurfette was the girl Smurf, you know. Brainy was kind of the smart out or the smarty pants, you know. Handy was the kind of the builder. Hefty was the strong man. Um, Jokey was the prankster, you know. So Greedy was actually kind of a combination of 2 or 3 Smurfs: Baker Smurf, Chef Smurf, and a Greedy Smurf. But let's see. And that, along with their small size and sympathetic, gentle natures, is their appeal. In an interview with the Stuart News to celebrate the Smurfs' 30th anniversary, Peyo acknowledged that the Smurfs were not always beloved educators and were not always beloved. Educators and parents were outraged at the use of the word Smurf. In the world of Smurfs, Smurf is used interchangeably as a noun, verb, and adjective. For example, the Smurfs are so smurfy as they go smurfing. The sentence could mean literally anything, but the issue adults had was that Smurf was confusing and annoying, and kids were starting to use it all the time, just like the little blue guys on TV. Okay, that's the thing though with children, right? They usually do come up with nonsensical words that mean just about anything, you know. Um, you know, but I think just by the simple inflection, though, of how the word is being used, you can kind of get an idea of. You can probably try to get an idea of just how the word, what usage the word is being used as. Quote, early on, unquote, Peyo said, quote, parents complained because their kids started to talk Smurfish. Despite the initial scorn and ire from parents and educators, the positive message and lessons of the Smurfs overruled any Smurfy confusion. Watch the Smurfs on MeTV Tunes Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, or 4 Central to Pacific. All right, so there we go with that. So now let's get ready to move on to the next article here. I have to get ready to move on to the next article. As I said, it was abounding in the comics article. Oh my goodness. I know I saw something here. There we go. I think because I slipped down to the review, said probably why I couldn't find the article I found earlier. But anyways, here's the second and last article of the evening here. Alrighty then. So, Spider-Man 94 will not reveal how Peter Parker saved MJ from limbo. Quote, if this mini does well, we can double back and find out exactly what happened. Unquote. Article by Spencer McCulley, published earlier today. So, in an absolutely baffling creative decision, given how most readers will be picking the series up specifically to finally receive a proper resolution, the original show's cliffhanger ending, Spider-Man 94, Volume 1, writer J.M. DeMantis has confirmed that the upcoming comic book mini will not explain how Peter Parker ultimately saved MJ from limbo, but instead begin its story sometime after her rescue. For those who either never saw Spider-Man the Animated Series or may need a quick refresher, the unresolved plot thread concerning MJ's sudden interdimensional trip first kicks off in the show's season 3 finale, Turning Point. Essentially, a TVY7 appropriate recreation of the night Gwen Stacy died. Basically, it was kind of a more of a kid friendlier version of the night Gwen Stacy died storyline, which Gwen was actually killed off. The episode finds the Green Goblin finally putting together Spider-Man's secret identity and choosing to use this knowledge to escalate their ongoing war, realizing that rather than fighting him, it's much easier and far more effective to attack those he loves, beginning with MJ. Kidnapping her and fleeing to the top of the George Washington Bridge with the intent of throwing her off its heights, the villain is stopped from doing so by the sudden arrival of Spider-Man, who moves MJ out of harm's way, before proceeding to beat the snot out of his arch nemesis. And there's a scene right there of him carrying MJ off. Of course, Green Goblin, voiced by the great Neil Ross. Kenneth Mary Jane, voiced by Sarah Ballantine in Spider-Man the Animal Season 3, Episode 14, Turning Point. Finding himself on the back foot, the Goblin once again takes aim at Mary Jane, this time using his glider to unleash a scattershot barrage of missiles upon the woman and her superpowered boat. Though the initial projectiles failed to hit their target, the resulting explosions caused by the impact with the bridge sends massive shock waves through its structure, the effects of which give Norman Osborn an unintentional win by causing MJ to lose her balance and fall towards the Hudson River below. Unable to find her body in the waters, Spider-Man initially believes MJ to have perished in the fall, but it is soon revealed to the viewer that rather than falling into the icy waters, she instead found herself falling through a portal to Limbo, as had been accidentally generated under her by the Green Goblin's own interdimensional travel device during the preceding chaos. And though MJ would seemingly return a short while later, conspicuously absent of any knowledge of how she survived the fall, it is soon revealed that it is not actually MJ, but rather a Hydro clone made by none other than Miles Warren, aka the Jackal. And in this case, the Jackal, in this case, was doing it for Hydro Man, Maury Bench. Unfortunately, before the hero could begin a search for the real MJ, he would not only find himself an unwilling participant in both the Beyonders' secret war and the first ever Spider-Verse adventure, but also, just as Madam Web invites Spider-Man to begin looking for her, the series' overall cancellation. So there's the scene of her going into Limbo right there. Hey, Netsuri. Hey, Netsuri. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, friendly reminder to everybody, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, I'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, let's continue on with the article here. To this end, with DeMatteis confirming at the time of Spider-Man 94 Volume 1's announcement that Marvel was, quote, treating this as the next season of the show, unquote, as well as the books solicit, boasting that it would see the webhead, quote, swing back into the streets of New York City with his beloved Mary Jane Watson in tow, unquote. Many fans found themselves understandably excited at the prospect that this plotline would not only be coming to a close, but a happy one. Sadly, while the miniseries will move past MJ's disappearance to tell new stories in the animated series continuity, it will not explain just how the web-crossed lovers reunited. Yeah, and that's kind of a poopy move to do, basically. Asked during a recent series-centric interview with CBR's Brian Cronin as to whether, quote, the series be more of a direct continuation of the cartoon's cliffhanger, or will it be more of, quote, sometime later approach to give yourself a bit of a blank slate as a starting point, unquote. DeMatteis affirmed, quote, the latter, unquote. Quote, the latter, unquote, explained the seasoned author of the original Kraven's Last Hunt storyline. Quote, we learn that Peter has gone to hell and back in order to bring MJ home. And they've had an incredible, harrowing adventure along the way. But we don't get into the details. As our story opens, They're home and ready to begin a new life together, unquote. Quote, that said, unquote, he added, quote, if this mini does well, we can double back and find out exactly what happened in the next one, unquote. Featuring artwork by current Spider-Verse versus Venomverse Volume 1 artist Jim Toe, the first Spider-Man 94 Volume 1 5-issue run is currently on track to begin webbing up store shelves on September 3rd. All right, then. So there we go with that. Well, we got through the two stories here. Let's see, what time is it now? It's 32 minutes. All right. Alrighty then. So, all right. So we're gonna move on to the wrestling round because there is quite a bit to go over tonight. As I said at the beginning, there was a considerable amount of wrestling. Again, AEW had a special Collision last night. Usually it airs on Saturday, so we'll look back to last night's Collision, TNA Impact, and Ring of Honor Honor Club. Then we will move forward to actually, yeah, I think we'll be able to cover enough time with all that. Move ahead to look ahead to tonight's Go Home SmackDown as well as this weekend's SummerSlam. So first off, let's talk a little bit about what happened on last night's Collision. As of course, AEW is continuing to prepare for its Forbidden Door event coming up on later this month on the 24th. The first match of the evening saw in the last of the quarterfinal matches in the tournament, in the Eliminator tournament, to determine who will next challenge the Hurt Syndicate for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Brodito of Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito and Brody King defeated the Gates of Agony, Bishop Gunn and Toa Leona, to advance to take on in the semifinals Matthew Nicholas Jackson, the Young Bucks. Chris Statlander defeated Lena Cross in a one-on-one match. In a match that was pretty much set up on Wednesday night's Collision, Tekla defeated Willow Nightingale in a one-on-one match as Willow Nightingale has been kind of got caught up in a feud with Tekla now in the Triangle of Madness of Sky Blue, Julia Hart, and Tekla. And then in the first semifinals match of the AEW World Tag Team Title Eliminator Tournament, FTR, who advanced to the semifinal rounds by defeating Jet Speed, defeated the Bang Bang Gang of Austin Gunn and Juice Robinson, who defeated Big Bill and Brian Keith. So now FTR, of course, advances to the finals to take on the winners of the Young Bucks Brodito semifinals. with, of course, ultimately the winner of this little tournament being the next to challenge the Hurt Syndicate for the AEW World Tag Team titles at Forbidden Door. Let's see. Max Caster finally survived one of his 5-minute challenges, coming to a draw against Roosh of LFI. But from what I've heard, apparently Roosh was unhappy and Max Caster paid the price for it. In a 6-man tag match, Skyflight, newly formed faction of Top Flight, the Martin brothers, Dante and Darius Martin, teaming with Scorpio Sky under the management pretty much of Christopher Daniels, defeated Shane Taylor Promotions of the Infantry's Carly Bravo and Sean Dean and Shane Taylor. The main event saw in a Chicago street fight for the AEW TNT title, Kyle Fletcher was able to defeat Dustin Rhodes for the become the new TNT champion. So while we got the feel good moment of Dustin at 56, getting the chance to hold a singles title for probably one last time in his career, they decided to move it off of him and put it on Kyle Fletcher, which I believe was their intent the whole time. But so that's all that happened on last night's Collision, of course. Now as we move on to TNA's Impact as they're preparing for their as they're of course preparing for Emergence, I believe in about 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from today, Total Nonstop Action will be having Emergence pay-per-view. Oh, by the way, going back to so as I said, last night's Collision came from the Byline Bank Aragon Ballroom in Chicago, Illinois, concluding the Chicago tour with of course Nigel McGuinness and Tony Schiavone on commentary. And then moving on to TNA Impact here, coming from the Thomas M. Ryan Center in Kingston, Rhode Island, with Tom Hannafin and Matthew Rainwell on commentary. Opening match saw in a 3-way match for the TNA X Division title, Leon Slater retained over Cedric Alexander and Jason Hotch of the Great Hands, and by extension, Order 4. He, of course, had John Skyler and Tasha Steelz in his corner. In a Knockouts tag team match, pitting 2 former tag partners on opposite sides, Indy Hartwell and Danny Luna defeated Ariana Grace and Jody Threat. Of course, Luna and Grace previously held the Knockouts tag team title on 2 separate occasions as Spitfire. The Radicals, this combination of Myron Reed and Zachary Wentz, defeated former TNA World Tag Team Champions Nick and Ryan Nemeth, the Nemeth brothers, in a match for the TNA Knockouts World title for basically Masha's, I guess, contractual rematch. Masha Slamovich defeated JC Jane via DQ. She got the win in the match, but not the title, as of course the title cannot change hands on a DQ. So, and of course, JC Jane had the other members of Fatal Influence in her corner. Well, Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix. The main event saw the System's Eddie Edwards and Moose defeat AJ Francis and Trick Williams with Casey Navarro in their corner. Now, initially, from what I'd previously seen, the match was originally supposed to have Rich Swann, I guess, making his return, but I guess that didn't go down for some reason. But I I guess we'll just wait and see what all else happens there. So now, of course, continuing on with the wrestling wrap-up. Now we're going to look back to last night's Ring of Honor Honor Club. Last night's Ring of Honor Club also came from the Byline Bank Aragon Ballroom in Chicago, Illinois, with Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni doing the commentary. Opening match saw a tag team match in which Hologram and New Japan Pro Strong Openweight Champion Tomohiro Ishii defeated M&M Collection of Mansoor and Mason Madden in a tag team match. Gringo Loco defeated John Cruz in a singles match. Blake Christian with Lee Johnson in his corner defeated Jimmy Jacobs. In a Pure Rules match, Zeshwa defeated Virus. And in a match for the Ring of Honor World title, Bandito defeated Adam Priest. That's all we got for that. Now as we looked back to last night, now we're going to go ahead and move on to looking ahead to tonight's WWE, tonight's SmackDown, as on this week's SmackDown. See what's on tap for that. As this, of course, will be the Go Home SmackDown. This will be the Go Home SmackDown before this weekend's SummerSlam events. And on tonight's SmackDown, which will be coming from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. Let's see. Los Garzas, Angel Umberto of Legado del Fantasma, will be defending the AAA World Tag Team titles against a mystery team. And then you will also see in a match that was set up last week, Aleister Black will be taking on Damian Priest. As this rivalry is starting to heat up. Now, of course, also coming up this weekend. Excuse me one moment. I'm going to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. As soon as I, of course. I'll be go off camera here. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Anyways, so now as we now look ahead to this weekend's SummerSlam, there'll be a 2-night event on Peacock. So tomorrow night's event and of course SummerSlam this year will be held at the MetLife Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Tomorrow's show will open up with a tag match in which Roman Reigns and Jey Uso will be taking on Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. In a match for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles, the Judgment Day's Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez will be taking on Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. In another tag team match, in a tag team match that was almost had to be changed because Drew, one of the participants, was stuck in another country. Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul will be taking on Randy Orton and Jelly Roll in a tag team match. There was some chance that this match might not happen because of the fact that Drew McIntyre was stuck in England, apparently having some passport issues. But apparently he was able to get back, I think it was last night or something like that, and was able to make it for the show this week. Sami Zayn takes on Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross will have Scar in his corner. Tiffany Stratton defends the WWE Women's title against Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill, who had won the Queen of the Ring tournament in Saudi Arabia and earned the shot at the women's title. And then in the match for the WWE World Heavyweight title, Gunther defends the title against CM Punk. So that's all going down on Saturday. Now looking ahead to Sunday. What will be going on Sunday? Also from the MetLife Arena. The night will open up with a 6-pack tables, ladders, and chairs match for the WWE World Tag Team titles. In which the Wyatt Six of Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis will be defending against Andrade and Ray Phoenix, the Motor City Machine Guns of Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, DIY's Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, and Fraxium, Axiom, and Nathan Frazier. Of course, you have Motor City Machine Guns and the Street Profits, who are former WWE Tag Team Champions. Dominic Mysterio defends the WWE Intercontinental title versus AJ Styles. And in a match for the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship, in a no count out, no DQ match, Becky Lynch defends against Lyra Valkyria. Another stipulation as part of this match is if Lyra does not win the title here, she cannot challenge for it again until while Becky Lynch is still champion. So this is looking to put a stamp on the feud, I guess. In a steel cage match for the WWE United States title, Solo Sikoa defends against Jacob Fatu. In a triple threat match for the WWE Women's World title, Naomi defends against former champions Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. The main event will see in a street fight a disputed WWE title on the line as John Cena defends against Cody Rhodes. So that's all we got for you on the wrestling wrap-up. So now, with that being said, of course, today is Friday, August 1st, 2025. So let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Niche history. History! Oh. All right, so first off, we're going to head back 90 years ago. And on this date, 90 years ago, back in 1935, on this date, back in 1935, Charles Mintz Productions, Garden Gaieties, premiered in movie theaters on this date back in 1935. Of course, this was an animated short that featured the voice talents of Dorothy Compton, Beatrice Hagen, and Mary Motor. So, on this date, 90 years ago today, Charles Mintz Productions' Garden Gaieties premiered in theaters, specifically for Columbia, on this date back in 1935, 90 years ago today. So now moving on to the next piece in each history as we move ahead 10 years to 1945. On this date in 1945, as soon as I grab that. On this date in 1945, the 25th issue of Classic Comics from Gilberton went on sale on this date back in 1945. They sold for 10 cents for 56 pages. 2 years before so I believe these were comics that were published. They were comic book form or comic book adaptations of like classic literature pieces, I guess, what I understand. So on this date, 80 years ago today, back in 1945, I think this was about a month or two after VE Day or VJ Day, one of the two. The 25th issue of Classic Comics went on sale on this date back in 1945, 80 years ago today. And finally, on this date, 50 years ago today, in 1975, on this date in 1975, Professor Toru Tanaka defeated Abdullah the Butcher in Atlanta for the NWA Georgia title. So on this date, back in 1975, 50 years ago today, Professor Toru Tanaka defeated Abdullah the Butcher for the NWA Georgia title. Professor Toru Tanaka, of course, known to many WWF fans as a 3-time holder of the WWF Tag Team Championships with Mr. Fuji throughout the 70s. So anyways, with that being said, I thank everybody for being here. Thank everybody for being here tonight. I thank you for your patience. Let me see now. We'll be back here, of course, on Sunday, as I'll be joined by RJ Carter, as we will be going back to June of 19. We'll be looking back at comics that went on sale in June of 1940. This week we'll be focusing in on Ace magazines. We'll be looking at Surefire Comics Volume 1, Issue 2, as well as Super Mystery Comics Volume 1, Issue 2. We'll be looking at such heroes as Vulcan, Raven, and he was called Flash Lightning in this story, but eventually became known as Lash Lightning. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here on Sunday. Bye.